This man, whom we'll call John, describes his former job as a living hell. For 18 months he was routinely humiliated and mistreated by his then employer.
He used to constantly monitor me. He even made me report the number of times I went to the bathroom each day.
John still finds it difficult to talk about his former boss's worst excesses. Now on indefinite sick leave, and with no date set for his return to work, he's been diagnosed with a mental illness brought on by work-related stress.
Every time my boss humiliated me, I wanted to set myself on fire and die in front of him. I'm sorry, please excuse me for a second.
Just talking about the trauma can bring on panic attacks, which he treats with tranquilizers.
These are anxiolytics. My heart's starting to race. Oh dear.
John has decided to take legal action against his former supervisors. Once a week he meets his lawyer. The trial will begin soon.
Good morning.
Labour lawyer Sung-Hyun Kim has handled several workplace harassment cases, targeting bosses who make life unbearable for their employees.
In South Korea, the rich and powerful believe that the people working for them are not just dependent on them for their livelihoods, but that they can also be subjected to absolute control. My client's case is sad, but I've come across even more extreme examples. In some cases, the victims died and their families had to file complaints on their behalf.
장시간 감사드립니다. 예. 수고 많으셨습니다.
Jong is not alone. According to a survey, 97% of employees in South Korea claim to have been victims of harassment at work. In the land of morning calm, the phenomenon has its own name, Gappjil. It's a catch-all term for abuse meted out by people in positions of authority, from public humiliation to verbal and even physical abuse. Earlier this year, a TV campaign was launched to raise awareness of Gappjil, likening people who abuse their subordinates to angry roosters. Created in 2017, Gappjil 119 is a civic organisation that aims to eradicate harassment at work, with 241 experts, lawyers and activists offering their services to Gappjil victims. Park Jum-kyu handles the most serious cases. He receives new evidence of Gappjil-related incidents every day. During one of their monthly meetings, members of the association are discussing how to improve South Korean employment law to protect victims of Gappjil.
There are cases which are not yet recognized by law, so they are difficult for us to address. The Labor Minister could resolve this, but he has been dragging his feet. Our role is to inform victims of their rights so they can defend themselves.
The association has tried to secure convictions against people accused of types of abuse that are currently covered by the law. Many of the victims are vulnerable young women. Minju Kang was working as a filmmaker for a major television network when she grew increasingly uneasy about her boss's behaviour. After realising that she was a victim of harassment, she decided to break her silence.
I was confused when my bosses started making sexual references or behaving inappropriately. I thought that maybe I had misheard them or misunderstood in some way, or that I was oversensitive and the only person who thought it was a problem. When I confided in female colleagues who had been working at the company for a long time, they said that this kind of behavior was the norm.
After a 2-year legal showdown with her former employer, Kang won her case. Her main tormentor was given a 6-month prison sentence. The days when workplace abuse went unpunished in South Korea are coming to an end. Under revisions to the labour law due to go into effect in July, those found guilty of Gappjil will face up to 2 years in prison and fines of more than €15,000.